Welcome back to the Quake Pro League. We're about to get underway with our fourth game of the evening. Dooi faces off versus cha1n. I feel like we have to start with cha1n. Obviously, his stonks have been skyrocketing since Poland.
I mean, cha1n just absolutely took everyone by surprise and delivered an outstanding performance in the Stage 2 finals. He beat Cooler, knocked him out of the tournament. The Cooler that we just saw dismantle his opponent Cypher 3-0 in a clean and quick matchup, managed to not only defeat Cooler the King, but also actually knocked out the Hang, who is, by all counts, the number 2 player in the Americas. So this man clearly has been making some waves, has really been finding his stride, and is going to be very interesting to see how he can bring it back to the online stages.
Yeah, and if he can do the do versus dooi, obviously it's going to be a hard task, but cha1n, the man on your screens, he did very well over the course of the online season. I think he went from strength to strength and looked better and better on his performance towards LAN. Once we got in LAN, that's where out of the blue he showed up majorly, and as you said, came in with some outstanding victories over some big names from the North American and European Quake scenes respectively. Now, back home, back online, can he continue on from that form, or was it a blip?
That's the question, of course. I hope that it was not a blip. cha1n's very interesting and entertaining player to see play. His command of the basics and the fundamentals of the game is just really strong, right? He's got the item timing down, he's got the positioning down, his aim is really good as well. So the man, he just knows every single aspect of the game.
Yeah, well, his opponent in dooi, however, obviously found his footing into the league last season. A bit of a wild Western wrangler, stays on in the Quake Pro League, but can he continue on? Is this season going to be better for him?
Yeah, that's of course the question when it comes to dooi. I feel like the man has got a whole lot of potential and can really make some big things happen this stage. We saw it a little bit during Stage 2, the online stages, or the online phases rather. The man just has a playstyle that no one else really emulates, right? There's a few players that can really switch to the defensive, right? You know, for example, Base and Razy, they're 2 players that can play a very defensive game as well. But dooi is the kind of man who, he'll get 1 frag and he'll say, you know what?
I'm happy, I'm alright.
I'm good. 9 minutes for 1 frag, I'll take it. And then he'll win a Blood Covenant with Nyx 1-0 after 10 minutes. So he just plays in such a different way that other players, they might go in for the frag when they've got, like, they say, I've got an 80% chance of winning this one. dooi, he's like, no, 95% and I'll consider it. But other than that, he'll just sit on his lead, sit on his situation, and just not bother.
Yeah, he's all about playing it safe and going for those high percentage plays. Let's have a look at the picks and bans, though, and see if there's potential for that to swing how this game might go.
First map will be Ruins of Sarnath, where we're going to see Slash go up against the Galena. Next one, Molten Fall, Scalebearer coming out and gracing us with his presence once again. Always a fun champion to see, facing down the Ranger. And then the final one will be Blood Covenant, a map that a lot of people in NA in particular seem to really enjoy. And we've got dooi playing as the Doomslayer. He's got a lot of mobility out of that with the double jump, whereas cha1n is going more for the informational approach with the Visor.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, because obviously 2 of the fairly fast mobility champions that come out for dooi, they could very well play into his hand if he wants to be able to escape and really go into a game of cat and mouse once he finds some kind of establishment.
The risk, of course, being that if he doesn't get that early lead and his opponent kind of walks away with 1, 2, 3 frags towards the beginning on Ruins, Slash is a very difficult pick to get back into the map with.
Especially just being so weak and squishy as well. It'll be quite easy, obviously, to pick her to pieces if things don't go well. As you're saying, if you can't actually establish any control, you're just left susceptible to everything.
It's also going to be very important that dooi tries to hunt down those totems, right? Because Ruins of Sarnath is one of the larger maps we've got in the pool. There's a lot of little nooks and crannies that you can hide those totems in. So if dooi is not careful, then he might be going up against cha1n, who essentially has a mega health in his pocket at all times. So he's got to be very careful about that.
Yeah, totem placement is always going to be key. I know that's something that we do like to harp on about, but the idea is, obviously, if you see a totem, smash it to pieces.
Yeah, dude, take it down instantly. And if you feel like you haven't spotted a totem in like 30 seconds, a minute, that's the time where you have to start going, hey, they're hidden somewhere.
Let's bust out that microscope. Let's have a look.
Just start looking around corners, taking a little bit of a peek here and there, and just really try and find them and take them out.
Yeah, they can be such a nuisance if you allow them to gain an establishment on the map. You want to get rid of them. But for now, let's get into this. dooi versus cha1n. We're going to be kicking it off. Let's see how map 1 is going to go.
Yeah, starting things off on dooi's point of view, playing as a Slash. He's got the speed, but his opponent has got those defensive totems and that extra burst of health. cha1n immediately delaying the mega health. I'm not sure if dooi's aware of this, but that could be difficult if he doesn't know that there's around a 10-second difference between the both items. Now dooi positioning himself center of the top of the map. He's not even going to go for heavy. He's going to surrender it completely to cha1n, and this could be risky because look at that. dooi, unaware that Mega has been delayed. He's got to be careful. cha1n is just going to push in, and dooi pushed away off the map.
dooi trying to fight for control over towards the Mega early on. Doesn't work out too well for him though, as it will be snatched away by the reach that cha1n has. They both go straight into a bit of a brawl though, a bust-up coming through as damage is being exchanged between the two. dooi holds the angle for the meantime though, wants the push to come around from cha1n, but he's not up to the task. Instead, goes for the smart play, dips out and picks up a heavy.
Yeah, dooi definitely just needs to disappear from the map for the time being. Doesn't want to engage just yet. There we go. Those are the fights he needs to take. And now, heavy up in around 15 seconds. Sitting down below the eye. He's got a pretty solid outlook on the item, but of course he's got to be careful. I think he's got a good idea of when heavy's about to spawn, but I don't know if he's in any position to challenge. Indeed, he makes a smart call, doesn't even show his face. He wants to get that 75 armor first and then do damage and find himself in a situation to do the damage.
Coming up to the 2-minute mark, a slow game between them both so far. No frags found. But now they hold on for a sec. As dooi looks to try and get another pick on the board potentially here. Instead, dives out for the meantime as he backs off over towards the Mega.
This is good for dooi. 5 seconds for Mega. Can he maintain positioning? There we go. Good use of the plasma trail. That's immediately going to stop cha1n from pushing in. He does manage to rocket jump past. The LG is just slightly better on the Canadian side, and dooi will fall. Got himself a small armor to work with though, but this is a situation that we were worried about at the start. He's a frag behind, and now things are going to be difficult. Mega will be the next item up. dooi again getting the better positioning, but he doesn't really have the stack. The LG needs to be phenomenal. He does a really good job, but you just can't beat that natural stack advantage. And look at that. There's a good amount of good totems hit him. Look at cha1n. He's hidden one right on top of there on the little doorway, and he uses a nail gun jump to get the height in order to receive healing. Really clever plays from the Canadian. And this is concerning. If dooi cannot find these totems, I think he managed to take both of them out actually. He found the one hiding up there. Impressive. Not expecting him to find it, but
no, that's smart. I mean, I like it from both of them. Obviously, fair play to dooi for actually being able to track it down. But cha1n, innovative stuff. I'm liking the expansions we're seeing. Actually, unlucky. Road rage, I guess.
Yeah, he just he had to shoot a rocket, but by that point he was already too close to cha1n's face. And the self-damage ended up taking him down. Now dooi, again, has the better positioning on the item, but we've seen in the past that that doesn't necessarily matter when you're up against the bigger stack. And wisely, dooi decides not to stick around for it. But this does allow cha1n a lot of freedom to build up his stack.
Wonder what other positions he's going to pull out of his pocket as well to actually pop these totems down in. He's already had a couple of interesting ones. More basic stuff there though, just puts it over by the heavy to be a little bit annoying if there is an opportunity for it to not be seen. Back over towards the Mega though, this is where our next fight is going to commence. 2 seconds until it's up, dooi will dive towards it and be able to get it. Does have the better stack, but he needs to find a frag, and he's been slapped slap bang in the face by that rail, and it is ruining him. He's so low, he's up up in the air as well. Exposed. He's got to get out of there.
That was a super solid play from dooi up until the very end. Now cha1n looking for the angle and he finds it a step before the item. Oh, dooi was not expecting that. And it was such a good play as well. The setup over at the Rockets right here with LG. cha1n was just completely whiffing his shots and dooi did all the damage, but he's gonna go down again. And now it's a 5-frag lead as we hit the 5-minute mark. cha1n is looking dominant.
It's so sick to see him playing this well as well. Straight off the back of Poland, coming home still really just pulling out all the stops. A dominant performance thus far against dooi. There is still another half of the game to go. Can dooi get back into it? Right now, looking a little bit stagnant.
Excellent read from cha1n right there. With the tri-bolt figuring out exactly where his opponent's located. This would be a really good win for cha1n too, because dooi, to a lot of American players, is a difficult hurdle to overcome. Just because his unique playstyle makes him very difficult to beat. And so if you can get that out of the way quickly, you're up. Your things are definitely looking up for you. cha1n immediately racing back over to Heavy. Even though dooi takes it, he doesn't have weapons to fight with. cha1n is just methodical with the rockets. Doesn't give dooi any breathing room and takes him down. Mega gonna be spawning in 5 seconds. dooi looks like he's got the timing, but does he have the weapons? Those are some good rockets. Oh. Ouch. That's all I can say about that rockets. That was a homing one, it felt like. Beautiful shot from cha1n.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
ooh, okay, that's absolutely beautiful, though.
Hello.
dooi, with a sickeningly good rail to at least give him some kind of access back into the game, although he doesn't have any frags. All that's going to do is reset him from that -1. He still needs to try and pick up 7 kills here to tie this up in around 3 minutes 30.
Heavy is still up. Heavy's been up for like 40 seconds. No one going for Heavy. I feel like both of them assumed that the other took it. This is not good for dooi. So squishy, but using the plasma trail, he gets the speed boost he needs. And does manage to collect the item. That's a little bit of information right there. Tiny bit of blip coming out of the plasma trail. It's just a tiny little dot on the radar, but it tells dooi everything he needs to know as he positions himself cleverly. Beautiful midi! The combo almost doing it. cha1n managing to get away. Had to heal up right there with the totem. dooi, can you find him? You don't have much time left. We know he can play the passive defensive play, but now he needs to be all about the offense, all about the aggression. That's a good LG trap right there. He needs to go for it. This is risky, but cha1n is low. Oh, rail. I don't know about that one. LG much safer. There we go. Good play from dooi, but he needs 6 more of those, Jackie.
Yeah, he's really going to try and keep this going. And in a short space of time as well, it's going to be an incredibly hard task for him. Can he do anything here? Still playing quite timid as well, doesn't really fancy the overextending or trying to go for the fight, but he's just burning too much time off the clock. Sure, you've got the lower stack, but you need to be confident in a time like this and just run the risk.
And in doing so, he actually gave cha1n the mega health, misses the rail, and takes a rocket for his trouble. Come on, dooi, yeah, that's a good engagement. He needs to press this. The heal comes out, though, misses the rail. That's unfortunate. Both of the major items are up. It looks like cha1n will be able to take at least a mega health. dooi just blazing trails past him. Needs a lot more than that. One more rail will do it, even with the heavy, I believe. But he can't get it. He just doesn't land the shot. Also a little worried. dooi has gotten so close to running into a totem like 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I'm happy he took it out right there. But if he decided to go left instead of right, that would have blown him to smithereens.
Surprising stuff here, though, from cha1n. I mean, 7 frags. Looking like he's going to pick up this first map fairly confidently. It's a good position to be in to actually start off this series. The plasma trail comes out, but it's not going to do anything apart from leave a pretty scene behind, as he will go down. dooi straight back in, looking for another attempt to fight, but the point-blank rail. Oh.
Yep. That will seal the deal once and for all. The rails. cha1n, his rails have been incredibly strong this time around, and dooi just unable to find a way in it, and that's the risk of playing a light champion on this map. If you can get control, if you can consistently apply the pressure, sure, but the moment you lose that and you cannot destroy the totems on time, you're in so much trouble.
Yeah, it's all just going to fall to pieces, and that's basically what has happened here. Could be an 11th frag to shut down the game if cha1n can find it.
I love how cha1n just straight up didn't pick up the item, but just stood behind it, trying to go for the fight, knowing that, you know what, if you land the rail, I'm gonna pop right back up to max health, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that is going to mark the 10 frag. Hang on, are we gonna see an 11-1? Yes, indeed, cha1n. Even after the GG being called, cha1n says, no. This is BG so far. I'm gonna make it a GG. There we go. 11 frags of a lead. Incredible strong performance from the Canadian.
Yeah, big. 40% rail accuracy there. A lot of damage done with it. It was so useful in cha1n's repertoire as he absolutely ran circles around dooi in that match.
Yeah, 26 major items going towards cha1n, just 10 going towards dooi. That's a huge, huge deficit, especially when you're a small squishy champion and your base stack is already lower than your opponent's.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Ridiculous stuff there. If he can continue this on, this series could potentially be very one-sided towards cha1n. Hopefully, dooi has the ability to bite back. That slow play style, when it works incredibly. But when your opponent is just going to keep on fighting and force you to play aggressive, it might not be the best fit.
No, absolutely not, and that's exactly what cha1n just showed us. dooi, can he figure out a way to deal with this? I feel like his aim was on point. Matchup was not in his favor, in my opinion. Looking at the champions on this particular map, maybe the next one will suit him a little bit more. I mean, we know that doooi's got skills, right? Back at the Stage 2 finals in Katowice, he beat Sparty.
Yeah.
Sparty is, of course, a household name in the Quake scene, a good player himself. And dooi, well, dooi took him to town. dooi beat him and knocked him out of the tournament, if I'm not mistaken. So clearly, he knows what he's doing, and I'm hoping he can show us too.
He's a good player. I just feel like at this point, you do need to be a little bit more diverse. We've even seen it with Base, where, you know, at the finals at Stage 2, yes, although he stayed true to his morals of, I'm going to play it this way, where I want to play slow, I will play happily just for that one frag advantage to win the game.
Right.
He did switch it up a little bit. We saw moments of deciding when he needed to aggress, when he had to alter himself ever so slightly. And I feel like, unfortunately, here with dooi, is sticking to your guns when you're really just falling short. At some point, you've got to realize this needs to change. I have to adapt.
Yeah, and there were some glimpse of change, but I feel like they were too little too late, right? I mean, by that point, cha1n already had a pretty insurmountable lead, almost, especially when you're up against the Galena that can just pop out those totems left and right and heal herself right back up, and dooi just unable to deal with it.
Yeah, just couldn't hack it, wasn't able to overthrow. We do move on to our second map in this series as well, though, and things are only heating up. Potentially for dooi, there is a little bit more fight left in him, but if he's going to bring it out, it needs to be now. Still an opportunity for him to take the series in a 2-1 sweep. Will he do it? Only time will tell.
And either way, dooi wants to just take at least one map of his opponent, right? You don't want cha1n, someone who I believe does have more points than dooi, but could be a potential contender to get into like the top bracket or the top half of the NA players. At least the upper
echelons, right?
Yeah, the upper echelons of the NA side. Like, dooi does not want cha1n to break away with 32 points in week 1.
No, that would just be horrendous. Absolutely. It would be absolutely ridiculous if he was able to do so. And with the way cha1n's played there, it is a possibility. That's the scary factor.
Oh yeah, cha1n is just, his game is on point, right? Excellent control. He knew exactly how to deal with the threat that a fast light champion such as Slash was posing to him, and he just, like I said, he just kind of whooped the floor with his opponent.
Yep. Let's see if that will continue here now, though, or if there is more fight left inside dooi. If he can reinvigorate himself as we get back into the action over on Molten, as of course it is going to be the scale bearer that comes out to play.
This is not a good start for dooi, as cha1n manages to collect not only the heavy, but just takes a casual little stroll and collects himself the mega as well. dooi right now on base stack 100 more or less, give or take a few. But of course, he is a pretty big target. And now cha1n is gonna get himself the rockets. It's the final weapon that he still needed. He did have to give up heavy this time around. He figured that dooi had just too commanding of a positioning on it. Lucky for him that that rail didn't catch him, because I feel like dooi probably would have made a push if he landed that shot.
Yeah, that is really just truly luck as well. As dooi came around the corner, he was the one that should have been able to hit that as a free direct connection with the rail. Instead, cha1n just sat there and luckily didn't get hit by it. This is where things might start to heat up a little bit though. Both of them attempting to prod each other as they battle over control of the heavy. The bull rush straight by as he is going to sprint past his opponent. cha1n reversing as he backpedals up towards the Mega, will snatch it away and now has a much larger stack compared to dooi.
cha1n used that teleporter to perfection to avoid any damage whatsoever from the bull rush right there, and now he does have the stack advantage. And dooi, like, this is typical dooi. 2 minutes in, he's just staying away from these engagements, right? He knows if I don't have the upper hand, if I don't feel comfortable taking this fight, I'm going to mainly use my scale bearer to stay away from my opponents. cha1n again cycling both of the major items, does get side of dooi, pushing in, out comes the bull rush, not much damage done. And there comes the first frag, cha1n using the orb to put himself on the board. dooi, can he retaliate? Can he pick up heavy? No, it's actually cha1n who gets the drop on the item. dooi, all he's got to his name right now is the railgun. Doesn't have rockets, doesn't have LG. So he's got to be careful. He can only really go for these fights at long range. And in these rail fights, he's inherently at a disadvantage because of his bigger size, making him a lot easier of a target to hit.
He's got more meat to him. He's a thicker boy.
Yeah, that very true.
So if you want to be able to hit him, there's definitely a lot more love handles to slap with those rails. cha1n for now, though, instead sticking towards the rocket, does try and look for a bit of an opening rail, but can't quite land it, and dooi will suck up that heavy to put himself into a very good position. Nice connection at least to strip some of it, though, Flea.
Yeah, cha1n is doing a good job at keeping dooi stack at a manageable level. Every single time they engage at these long distances, cha1n just finds himself a really good angle, a good position to take, and to at least chop away a little bit of that monster stack that dooi's got going for him. And here we go, 150-100. We're seeing a bit of a split between the major items. dooi consistently favoring heavy, cha1n more towards the Mega side, but dooi is unable to do anything on Mega, whereas cha1n is consistently doing damage on heavy. Again, see, dooi staying on his side of the map, looking for an angle. Can he fight one? Nope. And that's the kind of stuff that puts cha1n in a good position. Because if he picks up the small armor here right now, races over towards heavy, he can actually swap control right now and maybe get himself a good rotation going.
Got 4 seconds. He isn't going to make it in time to grab it, although he could fight. Wow, that was a good read. I did really like that from dooi. The tri-bolt round the corner, based off the audio cues. If cha1n would have extended slightly further forward, that would have done so much damage to him. Instead, they now actually go into a bit of a painful vertical battle. It's definitely going to hurt the wrists.
Yeah. Super slow game. I think this is probably the slowest game we've seen today. With just one frag 4 minutes in. Of course, it's one that dooi's involved in. No surprises there. But cha1n, first time he's going to break the rotation and get himself on the heavy. dooi realizes he's too late, he's outplayed, he shouldn't be there, and he just leaves instantly. cha1n actually going for some horizontal rocket jumps right there, building up a lot of speed, catching dooi, but the rockets are failing him, and is actually the American player that deals most of the damages and knocks cha1n right back. Good play from dooi, he's gonna find him again. cha1n, such a bad spot, but the LG! Oh, that was too close for comfort. Even though dooi still had 90 points of health, that felt like a lot less.
He nearly did it. He almost found the frag there. The bull rush to escape as well from dooi as he's quick on his feet for quite a big lad. Gets himself out and back over towards the Mega Spawn. Still 7 seconds until it's available. Good quick switch over to that LG to do a nice little bit of poke damage towards cha1n. Rail out as well. Has the Mega. Backs off. Isn't going to hold around and dilly-dally for any lights today, though. Instead, makes his move back over towards the rail.
dooi is doing a really good job, and not only just taking the small armors as well, because look at that. Even though he's collecting heavy, he's still taking the small armors. Yeah. But he's just doing a decent amount of damage and avoiding a lot of it himself. Here we go. cha1n goes down to the midi as they both plummet towards heavy. And now dooi. He's a frag in the lead, and he's got a big stack advantage. I think he was considering self-damaging for a second right there, but then he was like, 50 points is perhaps a bit much. Nice little rail right there. cha1n, I believe, is railable. Not anymore now after that infusion of health and armor. Heavy, up in 5 seconds. Both players are eyeing it. dooi. I like that drop, but missing the 2 rails. This is what cha1n needs to do, though. Unfortunately for him, he only landed the rail before the heavy was picked up. If he would have landed it afterwards, like that one, that's putting him in a much better situation. And now the Canadian should be able to pick up Mega. Took him some time, but he does pick up the item. And now things are looking a little bit more grim for dooi. He's outstacked. He's got the size disadvantage too. And he knows he can't show his face at heavy right now. He's just gonna go right back around. And cha1n will have full control, but dooi has the timing. He heard the item being picked up, so he knows exactly when it is. Mega, though, I don't think he's really got a clue. He might have a general approximation, but it's cha1n who knows where it is. Good little trap. Out comes the orb. cha1n definitely could have pushed that. Because dooi was taken by surprise. That first rocket did so much. If cha1n had orbed, likely would have been his frag, but he decides to play it a little bit more cautious.
dooi waiting on the ledge. Fires down the rocket to at least try and slow down the pickup on the heavy. cha1n will still get it. His orb's almost back up as well, coming in 4 seconds. And it seems like not only that, he's also going to have free reign of the Mega. Instead, he's gone back over towards rail. dooi might not be ready for this. They could both be caught off guard. The ball rush for the escape will get him out of there, but I don't think he's going to be on the home stretch. Will he get away scot-free for this one? Luckily, the Mega will give him a little bit more stack to play with to keep him alive. It's his only lifeline into the game. He still needs to retreat as his stack is so low.
That was a good engagement for cha1n. dooi just barely making it out of there alive, and that's a nice little rocket to at least just basically get rid of the heavy that cha1n has. So dooi now looking for some small armors to restack. There's gonna be one for him. 2 minutes left. cha1n still has got plenty of time to work with, but he does need to find the American. Ooh. Good use of the orb, and there we go. cha1n! Oh! Almost knocking himself off the map right there. He was standing on the ledge. Barely staying in, but that was an excellent orb. And that's one of the reasons why Ranger is a really good counter against Scale, because you can just orb right through him and past him and negate all of the damage from the bull rush, because that could have been really bad for cha1n if that bull rush had connected.
Oh, it would have been absolutely awful. Luckily enough, now it puts us into this position where this map has turned highly competitive. A 2-2 scoreline with still a small margin of time left. Everything has to come out on the table now. They can have no holes barred. It needs to truly be full confidence from both of them. cha1n, however, is on the back foot. He's the one with a much lower stack, as dooi has spent this time scavenging and building himself up. So this beefy boy is truly at his biggest.
cha1n doesn't have a single point of armor to his name right now. He's trying to hold ground here towards Railgun, but oh, the heavy! Is that a bit of an oversight in dooi's playing, just giving up that item for free? Now cha1n, both players playing it slow. They know that it's basically sudden death already. Whoever gets this next frag is almost guaranteed to win the map, so neither wants to give up another death right now. cha1n at the time holding control of the center area of the map over at shotgun, just listening for audio cues, hoping that dooi is going to make any sort of noise, give up his position. He had a pretty good read on him, though. dooi might actually give up Mega if cha1n had looked the other way. Now cha1n has perfect timing on both of the items. dooi has a slight stack advantage.
The way this is going, this could be decided in sudden death, all off the back of one single frag. 20 seconds left on the clock as it's a mad dash towards the heavy. If dooi finds the frag here now, this might as well just seal the deal as him winning the map. The LG barely missing as he tries to strike fear into the heart of cha1n, looking to zap him up and do his best Zeus impression instead. cha1n dives over towards the Meggy. Replenishes his health and leaps back over towards the rail as we do go into sudden death. It is all down to one frag, Flea.
It's as close as it gets, right? Maggie has been taken by dooi this time, or by cha1n actually this time around, keeping him competitively viable. Is actually going to go ahead and claim both of the items, and we're seeing a key part of dooi's strategy. He's setting up a trap. He's just waiting down below at Mega. There we go! Ooh. Good rocket! This is going to be the decider! The rockets are just slightly better from dooi, who also had the stack advantage, and cha1n caught out with his back towards his opponent. Congratulations, dooi, for tying things right back up. That's going to be 1-1. This is our first match this evening that is not a trio, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I think you're right, and this is crazy as well. Very, very important, meaning now that this series is split right down the middle, it could go either way. So a lot of points on the line, obviously. If you do take it, that's going to be 16, which is still a big chunk of change.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the scoreboard, a lot of players in NA are really, really close to one another, especially down towards the bottom or the middle section of the rankings. It's actually really close. So those 16 points, they can make a big, big difference.
They can indeed. The fact it was decided in sudden death as well. I mean, fair enough to Dooi, because it seemed like it was going to go his way.
Yeah.
That fight over towards the heavy, we were on the edge of our seats with how close it seemed.
There were just a lot of messy, somewhat questionable fights. I feel like cha1n at the end, he had control, and then he took a fight which went really, really wrong for him. Dooi had control, took a fight that went really wrong for him. So control just kept on changing between the two of them, but in the end, it is Dooi taking home Molten Falls and tying it up 1-1.
Yeah, so it's all down to this. A third and final map between these boys. The all-star American versus the captain of Canada. Will he be able to close it out and come back through after his run in Poland? Or is this Dooi really starting to rev the engine, show that this man is a true desperado?
I mean, either way, it's going to be great for us viewers, right? No matter who wins, we win. Because we get to see some beautiful Quake either way. But as you said, cha1n, can he continue just riding that high of the Stage 2 finals in Poland where he just knocked out some amazing top-tier players? Or is Dooi, you know, who's been somewhat of an underdog in the tournament and now coming back into the online stages of Stage 3, can he just really show that, you know, he's progressing as well? He's learning. The longer he's in the Pro League, he's honing his craft, perfecting his play, and maybe he can take down cha1n right away.
He's like a machine AI. He just learns, you know.
Just, yeah.
The more players you put into play against him, the better he gets.
Yeah, just supervised machine learning. You just let him play through a whole bunch of maps over and over again, and he gets better as time goes.
Did you ever read the old green text about the Quake Free server that was left running for like 5 years, where it was just bots playing against each other?
It sounds familiar, yeah.
Because obviously, like you know, the story goes that basically it had machine learning, so the bots would slowly develop over time to play better. So after 5 years, he saw the server was still running and had a look, and they just weren't shooting each other anymore, and they wouldn't move because they realized the only way to win was to just not fight.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's really deep for a Sunday afternoon Quake stream. So
write that one down.
Yeah, write that one down. I'm sure
Keep that in mind.
No one else has said that one before you. The only winning move is not to play. I feel like never.
No.
Never. That's brand new.
No, there wasn't a movie on that.
Not at all.
No. That's all new. That's fresh for 2020.
That's
what we do here on the Quake Pro League. We take it back, but we also bring it to the future.
We absolutely do, and we've got a lot more good games in store for us today, so don't go anywhere. We've still got the final, the decider map between Dooi and cha1n, but even after that, we've got 4 more matchups, I believe, and there's some really good ones there.
Well, that's the good part, right, is we're only reaching the halfway portion of the show. Of course, there's still much more, and if you are a fan of Rafa, and of course want to see if his legacy will continue after his victory in Poland, that's still coming up tonight. That will be the bookend of the show that will close it out. So definitely exciting stuff.
Oh yeah, we've also got Base versus Vanguard, 2 amazing players that really performed above and beyond expectations, right? First time for Base to make top 3, first time for Vanguard to make top 4 at the landing Quake champion. So a lot of really good matchups ahead of us.
We do indeed. I think that's going to be the exciting one as well, is how many people are going to tune in just to see Base. Obviously, all of his fan base will come here and hopefully try and cheer him on.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, and it's also, again, as we mentioned earlier, this is really a bit of a benchmarking week to show how the players learned and evolved after the LAN, the Quake, or the Stage 2 finals, rather, and to see how they can bring it back to the online stage.
Yeah, see at what point they just decide to just stop and just stay in spawn, because that's the true way to win.
Yeah. Wouldn't be as interesting for us, though, for the viewers.
It wouldn't, but I mean, it would be interesting to see who makes the first move. Like 9 minutes 30 in, that's when they take the first step. That'd really freak your opponent out.
Absolutely, yeah.
You wouldn't know how to counter that at all.
No, not one bit. It would be a pain to cast.
Yeah? Wouldn't that be good? It'd be like a little podcast.
Could be like a little podcast.
Yeah, we'd just, we'd talk about what's going on in the week. We'd discuss how we're feeling. And we'd also potentially discuss Dooi versus cha1n as we're ready for the third and final map in this series. We're going to get slotted straight back in. I hope you're enjoying yourself tonight, and you'll enjoy yourself even more with the spectacle you're about to see.
It is Blood Covenant. We've got dooi on the Doomslayer. He's got a lot of mobility. There's so many things you can accomplish with the double jump on this map. So many neat little shortcuts that can get you from point A to point B pretty much instantly. Whereas cha1n is running the Visor, who of course has got slight advantage when it comes to accelerating at the horizontal level. And has got the piercing sight to work with, so a lot of information he can get out of that ability.
dooi falling back immediately here, firing off a couple of warning rockets. Does have control close towards the Mega, but can cha1n try and punish him from a distance? Right now, a bit of a whiffing coming through. It seems like it might be a windy day.
Sure seems that way. Heavy is being delayed considerably. Oh, I like that from cha1n. Not even going straight for the armor, but just continuing to sit on the rockets, keeping that good position. dooi is trying to juke him, find a way up there to take the fight straight to his opponent. Look at that. Is cha1n just seriously going to wait for a full rotation? It kind of seems like it. Heavy is still up. dooi could jump across and beat him there. I'm surprised he's not doing that. Surely cha1n is now going to go back. No, he's just going to land 2 rails. What?
This could be 2 full rotations of Heavy.
Mate, I'm wondering if they were listening to you. The only winning move is not to play. cha1n has just not picked up Heavy for like a full minute. It's still up.
It's not
still
going for
up
it as well. Actually, now he is. Finally.
He's like, am I not forgetting something? What do you have in this game again?
Did I leave the oven on?
Yeah. You've got health and what's that other thing? Oh, right. The armor. Good little trap from dooi, though. Rockets are punishing. Mega will be going his way again. cha1n now getting out with just a bit of health left. dooi. Can he make anything happen? This is risky. I don't think cha1n can push for Heavy with the stack that he's got. He knows that's a death sentence. And so does dooi. He reads his opponent perfectly. He's going to continue applying pressure. Just dodges the rail, though. And that's why Doomslayer is so good. Instantly. Bridge to rail. No worries. No delays. And now he's got everything he needs.
Yeah, it just opens up a whole nother level of movement on all of the maps in the map pool. dooi skyrocketing back up to a high pedestal though, so he can snatch away that Mega to replenish his HP. As he slowly tiptoes back past the Blood as well. Both of them going for a very sneaky play here. They want to get the drop on each other, but it comes down to the luck of the draw. There is a backstab potential for dooi, but I don't think he quite knows where cha1n is. It won't matter, as he does at least get the Heavy as a bit of a consolation prize, and this is where our next fight will develop.
And if it comes down to it, dooi is really not that good in a spot, even if cha1n gets the drop on him. dooi stack advantage is going to help him out tremendously. That's a good little rail. He does have to give up Mega, though. Now he's got to be careful. He's got to stop cha1n from being able to just push onto the Heavy as well, because that would completely flip control. dooi looks like he's going to let him. Just trying to slow things down. Waiting, trying to land the rail shot, no doubt. There we go, cha1n drops. dooi misses the rail, though, and the second one as well. Good attempt, I like the move, but unfortunately the execution wasn't quite there.
Pepper spraying of HMG just being fired across, hoping to connect onto cha1n, but not too much is landing. Luckily, when he switches out to the rail, it's a lot more lucrative for him, as he does punish with a nice opening tag. It's a very awkward firefight between them both as they're trying to fight vertically, but no one's being able to hurt.
Heavy up already. It will be dooi making his way over there. Kind of fumbling the rocket jump right there. Still 0-0. This is a dooi game, alright. It's in the writing on the walls. He's giving up Mega. You can really see both of these players respect their opponent's combat abilities tremendously. They don't want to be caught out because they know that it's likely a death sentence. They want to be the one doing the catching. dooi has no clue where his opponent is. Oh, there we go. cha1n giving up a little bit of information with the footsteps, making a little bit of noise. Nice little split between the items. dooi going for Heavy most of the time. cha1n contenting himself with the Mega. Hang on, cha1n, a bit of a misplay right there. Definitely positioning himself a little bit too far out there, so he didn't have that instant jump onto the item, and that's allowing dooi to do a lot of damage. This is the Americans' opportunity. And another one. dooi, you can't let this one go to waste, man. We know you're a passive player, faking out a rocket jump and just going for Heavy. That's what I was talking about at the very start, right? almost every other player would have looked at that opportunity and said, you know what, I'm going to rocket jump up and I'm going to finish it. dooi, he says, no, I need 95% of a confidence interval, and then I'm going to go for it. Other than that, I don't mess.
He's also letting this clock run down to its bare minimum time before he wants to make that move. If he can find a 1 frag advantage 7 minutes into the game, he'll be sitting pretty and be very happy with the position that he finds himself in. Drops down with a rail and looks to try and punish, but he's not quite connecting. He can't really land a hefty hit to try and slow down cha1n. He is going a little bit more aggressive now on the chase, but the flicks aren't ideal. He's over towards the Mega, so if he does get tagged, he can quickly heal himself up, but he needs to punish. There's one, and he does scare off cha1n for the meantime.
cha1n now does have the better positioning for heavy, though. Sitting up there at the rockets. Looks like cha1n should be able to get heavy, unless he decides to just retreat, which might be exactly what he does. He's a little reluctant. He's going to give it up to dooi. No damage being exchanged. And this is always a risky situation to be in when you're dooi. Even when you're in control, if you're not doing the damage but your opponent is, you're going to regret not taking those fights, right? Because look at that. cha1n is 100 points of health right now, 0 armor. If dooi lets him continue to escape and cha1n lands a few nice rails, dooi is the one who's going to be in trouble if he has to give up an item. He has to finish it now. He can't let cha1n off the hook with like 30 points of health right here. cha1n is just right below him. cha1n gets away, but not quite. dooi catches him perfectly. Looking for the damage of the spawn, won't fight it. But I think that's all that dooi was hoping for. He's got that 1 frag lead.
Yeah.
There's 3 minutes left. He loves this map. Perfect rail, beautiful angle too. And now all he has to do is keep cha1n stack manageable.
The cat-like reflexes coming out from dooi right now are absolutely deadly. He is fast on the tail of cha1n as well as he looks to try and give him a puncture. Slows it down for the meantime, though. 7 minutes into the game. He has that 1 frag lead that he has been salivating for and hoping to be able to pick up the entire time. Now he's starting to get a little bit more hectic. Fires off the rocket salvo down below to the blood pool. They won't connect, but he finds a Mega, and he is in a commanding spot into this game. This could be a 2-1 series for dooi if he can sustain this style of play.
Oh, what a nice little combo. cha1n is in trouble. dooi decides not to risk it, which I think is a clever choice. If he would have dropped down and his rockets just didn't connect while cha1n landed a lot of heavy nail, he absolutely could have lost his life right there and led to a tied game. So good decision from dooi not to go for that fight. Just playing the passive defensive game that we know him for.
It also goes completely against his internal monologue, right? Of him not wanting to overextend unless he absolutely has to.
Yep.
If it was 1-1, maybe. But the fact it's 1-0, he's going to stay true to his guns and just bide his time. Luckily, is able to readjust back over towards the rail.
I like that he got it, because there was a nice little click moment earlier when cha1n was at the heavy. Minute and 30 seconds left. dooi trying to set a trap. Rockets are solid. Not as much damage as he would have hoped for, but cha1n is actually going to drop down. Look for more. Heavy is up. dooi realizes that cha1n also dropped to the blood pool, so he's just going to go right back up, secure the item. cha1n, you've got a minute left to work with. Mega is up. If he can take it, he would be in a pretty decent position. dooi. That's such a good read. He shot that even before cha1n jumped on the bounce pad. That is some really good game knowledge on dooi's end.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. A fantastic rocket, a near miss with the rail as well. But dooi, 60 seconds until he clutches victory and walks away with a 2-1 scoreline. It can happen if he just keeps playing like he has been for the entire 9 minutes this game has been going on for dooi. Now, playing for the escape, instead darts back over cha1n. He is going to have to be on the chase. Is there anything he can muster up here? He gets a Mega, but he's got 30 seconds to spill blood.
And this is a big issue for cha1n right now, because he doesn't have the mobility that dooi has. He has the piercing sight rather, so he can get a lot of information. He's gonna find dooi. The LG is looking good. He needs to finish this. He can't let dooi get away now. dooi kind of stuck in a bad corner. Out comes the piercing sight. dooi, of course, well aware that it has been popped. Nice little rail. 1 more point of damage will do it. Can you find it? No! cha1n is going to call GG's there. Oh my god. A little bit of shotgun, a little bit of machine gun. He was out to 3 points of health, Jackie. 3 points of health.
It looked like it was going to sudden death we were going to see it finish in a ridiculous big payoff in sudden death. Instead, no, dooi, you leave him with an inch of his life, and he is still going to keep on swinging and just destroys, crushes it in the final few seconds. Literally the final few seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, cha1n, he knew he had to go for it, right? He couldn't back away anymore at that point. He had 10 seconds left, 5 seconds left. You need to push at that situation. But he just, I don't think he really realized just how low dooi was. And so he kept pushing with the railgun. And then he just took 2 bad rockets trying to push his way through the choke points.
Yeah. So unfortunate. For cha1n, that's such a rough end to what still could have been an incredibly tight affair. Although for dooi, he was allowed to play his playstyle. He could do what he does best and really gave us a tutorial in why that works.
Absolutely. He just slow played it, had a lot of defensiveness going on. Like, look at this. 7 minutes in to get that first frag. That's typical dooi. cha1n just, cha1n didn't really know how to counter it, it feels like, because he gave up too many opportunities. This was so close, though. I love that we're getting a highlight reel of just 2 frags for a dooi game, but yeah. What do you think cha1n could have done differently, Jackie?
I mean, there's times where it feels like there could have been more opportunities to try and fight. However, the fact is, it's easy enough to say that, whereas in practice, right, if you did go up against dooi and decide to just try and initiate and fight, a lot of the times he would have been in positions where he could have just added another frag to his tally, and then you've got an even taller order to try and deal with. It just seemed like dooi, for some reason in that matchup, everything went right for him.
It also just has a lot to do with the champion picks, right? dooi, he kept the mobility to himself, and yes, even though cha1n did have that piercing sight and that information temporarily being able to see exactly where his opponent's located on the map, dooi just was able to dodge him for most of the map. dooi often stuck to the high ground, so he had a lot of mobility there. He can just jump from catwalk to rockets, bridge to rail. He can just do so many of these little shortcuts, and cha1n cannot follow him there without doing a rocket jump or something and dealing a lot of self-damage and opening himself up to a very predictable play. And that just ultimately ended up giving dooi the win.
I think it also just shows how disgustingly good Doom can be, just for that passive alone. You know, active ability aside, you're never really going to use it. When you do, you might get a cheeky uppercut in, so fair play. But for the double jump, that's just so impactful.
That's the main reason you play Doom, right? I don't think we saw the Berserk popped even once.
I don't think so.
The only downside, of course, is that when you play Doom, you're not denying any hourglasses to your opponent. So when you're up against a champion that relies on their ability heavily, you're constantly giving them every single hourglass of the map to cut their cooldown in essentially half.
Yeah, that is the one downside to it. However, on the upside, there is still more games to go tonight. So let's have a sneak peek of what is coming up after the break as we see the return of Sib back in the Quake Pro League as he'll face off against the Liquid Lunatic in Dahang, the brother-in-arms of Rafa. Will he be able to smite him down and overthrow? We will find out when we come back in after the break. For now, though, get yourselves ready as it will be very exciting. The return of Sib as he faces off versus Dahang.